Hey everyone, welcome back to the Inner Forecast, your space to gain insight and foresight for the month ahead. So you know where to focus your time and energy. I'm Jen Rose, your host, a certified astrologer, Reiki practitioner, holistic nutritionist, and quantum healing hypnosis guide. Each month has its own energy, and my goal is to support your intuition and life planning through astrology, while also bringing in a special guest to share their magic and wisdom to help you navigate the month ahead.
We always record ahead of time, and it feels very serendipitous as we're recording on the 1111 portal during a very reflective inward time as Mercury retrograde is in Sagittarius. And this is the season we'll be discussing. Thank my guest here that I'm going to introduce for being here. Joining me today is Alia Francesco. Francesco?
Francisco.
Francisco. Perfect. Yes. um, she's an entrepreneur. She's devoted to helping women get unstuck and manifest their dream lives. She's also a yoga instructor, best known for her soul flow yoga teachings, where she creates space for both the body and the mind through intentional movement. And almost like a deeper connection to self, I would find, as I've also got to be a participant of her magic. And she's also an author of Everything Nothing book, a memoir that gently guides you back to embodiment. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, we always anchor into the basics by having our guests introduce themselves through their sun, which is our persona, your moon, which is your emotional body, your intuitive body, and your rising, which is the front door we go out to meet our environment. So, can you share a little bit about what those are and how that is been manifesting in your life and how you feel about them?
I would love to. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to meet with you. I enjoy our exchanges and our conversations so much. So I'm really excited for this time and this like carefully and intentionally curated space that you hold. So thank you so much for having me. My rising, my sun, and my moon sign. My sun sign is Leo, and my rising is Leo, and my moon is in Cancer. And I would say that that plays out early in life. As a Leo, there's a love for joy and play and moving through life on the sunnier disposition of things, sort of seeing naturally the glasses half full and just really enjoying the relating dynamics in my life was the essence that I came here with as a rising and sun in Leo. Also, would say the shadow of that is a tendency to over identify with the mind, to be in perpetual state of rumination, to figure things out. And those two together, the refinement or the exploration or the journey of that shadow side of rumination and over identification in the mind, made me someone who really respects the body. So that put me on this journey and this course of offering and being in service in the body, because essentially that was the antidote to my over analysis, the over analysis of my mind, because that's where I would go naturally. If I'm stressed, if I'm worried, if I'm met with indecision, mind is the first place I go. And so I've had to retrain myself to really anchor into the body and find the knowing from within rather than the movement of my monkey mind. And that with a Cancer moon, which is my emotional authority, has infused that all with a nurturing quality, this desire to not just navigate this path for myself alone, but to take others along the journey with me in a genuinely connective way, like a genuine desire for others to know themselves on this deeper level. That is the anchor or the catalyst for me wanting to hold spaces for others, because I don't, nothing I do is in a vessel. It's all with the collective in mind. And I would say that that's my Cancer quality, that nurturing, mothering homestead quality.
That's so beautifully said. And, for those that are listening, what's so interesting about being born as a sun Leo and a moon Cancer is the sun is ruled by Leo and the moon is ruled by Cancer. So in a, not a weird way, but in a beautiful sort of cyclical way, you sort of rise with the day and you like are in tune with the moon in the evening because the moon in our reality is our subconscious. It's what we're not necessarily seeing. And I always say with guests that are cancers or have cancer in their big three or friends, they're so in tune to the energy that's happening because the moon changes every 2.5 days. So in a lot of ways, um, you're kind of moving through what feels, and you're also moving through showing up and how you sort of present yourself. And it's really interesting to me because we sort of met through yoga practice at Afterglow. And I have to say, I can feel your radiance in the fact that your sun is the front door that you go out of. And it's helps other people, I feel, lean into their own as Leos have that synergy to them, that warmth, that generosity. And I would say that with a Leo, it's like when she's looking at you and when she's in practice or when she's in conversation, she's so present with you in that moment. And so the sun at the front door is like almost a way to say like who you are is how you show up. There's this authenticity that naturally comes into your environments. And I'm just curious, did you ever feel like shyer as a kid?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
A big misconception is that a rising Leo is somebody who's like always ready to be on, and but quite often or not, they're quite shy under the wrong audience, But if there's the right sort of audience to understanding who they really are, it just allows the whole room to kind of light up. I almost describe a rising Leo as like a candle in the dark,
Mm.
that lights, that warmth, and that appreciation and acceptance of self. It's a lot of helping us learn about that integration. So it's so beautiful to hear your experience on how that's lived. And it's interesting to hear about the mind. Just out of curiosity, do you know what sign your Mercury's in?
What if my Mercury's in Scorpio? Because that's actually where I just discovered
Oh, okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. You're like, what is this in Scorpio?
Yeah.
That's so good.
They're kind of similar,
Mm-hmm.
almost like
Mm-hmm.
an M looking.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Um, Scorpio is also in the sense of wanting to go deep and wanting to get to the
Yeah.
truth of the matter. And so you having Mercury in your fourth house indicates to me that a lot of your growth and mental process comes from inner reflection and being at home. And it's interesting because the fourth house is ruled by being a mother and like, having your moon in Cancer, there's this like journey there with that. And I'm sure that like for you, there's been a lot of like lotus flowers from the mud moments, in life with regards to your alchemy between your mental process. It's almost like if you think of Scorpio, things have to die off for things to be reborn. So communication for you has to like kind of figure out what the truth is, and you probably hear what people aren't saying as well. In astrology, if you have a water sign, which would be Pisces, Scorpio, as well as Cancer. Yeah, that would this intuitive, nonverbal, able to sort of be very selective, maybe about what you say too, as well. Maybe perhaps a private person.
It's so funny that you read that. It's so accurate. I literally had a session before you and I were meeting up, and I was saying that the soul care sessions that I offer is literally the thread of the unspoken communication. So I actually can tap into what's not said and help people read their patterns, because what they're communicating verbally is only a small percentage of what I'm hearing in the communication. And it's interesting to have that tied to the Scorpio in the fourth house. That you nailed that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you're able to help and facilitate that with women, maybe in particular, but also how they can nurture themselves in a deeper way because of it. So that's major.
Love that.
What and this is we're leaving Scorpio season, so it's very we're leaving the season of deeper truth, of changes, of transformations, of having to look at maybe our shadows in some way into to talk about today about Sagittarius, which is a completely different tone and energy to it when life calls you to expand, to explore, to step into new experiences. And today we'll dive into why some of like the hardest lessons can actively or actually be like the greatest teachers, and how this time and this year is inviting us all to grow as well. I feel like when Sagittarius season comes, it nudges us to try something a little bit scary, something new, but also exciting. And the energy from it's basically from November 22nd to December 21st is all about pulling us towards, that expansion. And if you think about the sign itself, it's the archer, where we pull the arrow back before we go forward. And it's like stepping back from the minute things that life offers and asking the larger questions, to stand upon the highest peaks so that we can like see all the different vantage points, but not only through the mind, which is a big thing that we're talking about, but there's also this innate understanding that the knowledge doesn't necessarily equate wisdom, rather that it comes from lived experience. And if we break down the word wise, we get wise from making dumb experiences like wisdom. My astrology teacher said that to me, Deborah Silverman, and I was like, that's going to be in the zeitgeist. And that one's going to stick. So that's why I'm really excited for us to talk today and to have you here today, because it was very clear to me when I met you and I got to be a participant in your teacher soul flow class. I was like, oh, Alia is a natural um, teacher in a lot of ways. And I know you now, I mean, not now, but you also coach as well privately with women. So I wanted to sit here from your perspective to hear a little bit about some of your teaching practices, and, talk a little bit about what your teacher journey has been.
Mhm. I would love to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love a few things that you've said, which are going to go into my repertoire of vocabulary. I love rising being the front door with which you walk through. That just really elicits a visualization for myself of that notion of opening the door to that energy. Makes a lot of sense. I've never heard it said in that way before, so that really, that's beautiful. And yeah, the wisdom, oh my gosh, I feel like that is the way for me for sure, is um through the initiation of tension and friction in my life has always been what's given way to deeper wisdom. And I do believe that it's my experience that I sense that people get this impression that because I do have that sunny front door, that Leo rising and Leo sun, that there is this like element of levity that's always been a part of my character, or a sunny disposition that has come with ease, and that is so far from the truth. There is that nature and that tendency toward that, and it's been come hard done by. So there has been that element of for sure that refining process that the coal goes through to come into a diamond, or the caterpillar into a butterfly, that I know very well. And that literally has been the catalyst for me having some of the most beautiful and exceptional experiences of my life, is because of this desire to understand my experience more, or to feel more resourced as I move through life, is what has me walking through it very conscious and aware of all of those little signposts along the way that can be a bolster or a support or a guidance to make sense of the situation. And I think that if I were hindered by circumstances or a propensity towards overthinking, then that could very much be the definition of who you see me today. And I know that the embodiment of someone having been through something is very alluring. Like, the teachers I love the most are not just conceptual, they're not ones who've just read things in a textbook. They're people who have transmuted their challenges into opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, and I think whenever we walk that journey and we're awake and willing to discover, that naturally has a spontaneity towards being of service. Is once, as soon as you've had a little reprieve from suffering, or a little glimpse of light beyond a tunnel, then you want that for everyone. And you recognize it's available to everyone because you walked that journey yourself. So I think it's a natural inclination for someone who's walking through experiences, curious. And yeah, I always, or I often say that a spiritual path is just one of curiosity and wonder. It's the person that's like, what more is there to this? And when you're asking that, and that is a practice of staying open, it is releasing yourself from being defined or linear. You're opening yourself up. You're being receptive to possibility and potential, and that's nature, right? Nature mimics that for us. We see how it shows up every day, and that availability is what unfolds versus being attached to something particular. There's weather, and that changes, and all of those, nature shows us the cycles of things and how we move through stuff. And so we are nature. So the spiritual path is one of staying open, a sense of wonder, curiosity, and an appreciation and respect for our nature quality.
I really love the way you said that. Like, the curiosity is absolutely the theme of this season, and I feel just wanting to acknowledge this part because I feel some people may relate to what you said in terms of not really resonating with their sun sign, or the maybe way it's been described to them and the way that they embody it. And something I do want to speak to is that often we feel that we come in and we are born as this sign, and therefore we are it. But as a reality, we grow into our sun sign. So we grow into the lessons and the attributes of what that really is through the process of a nonlinear journey, right? Of all the ways in which we can learn about ourselves through that, um, through our experiences, essentially. So if anyone else out there is like, I don't necessarily relate to my sun sign, know that that's part of what this is about, this journey. You know, even myself as a Gemini, some of the attributes that are used to describe it is someone who's very verbal, a good communicator, the messenger, all of these sort of things. But, if you met my childhood friends, they would say Jen was not a great communicator when we were younger. And as I've evolved into, learning my own style and what my own interests are and how to articulate that, I feel completely different in an identifying way of what that means and how I embody that. So it's very interesting, and everyone's a little different. And so I just wanted to put that out there for people. And I love the curiosity and the wonder because it allows us to, you know, look beyond our reality in some ways and have newer experiences through that curiosity that can allow us to grow in ways that we maybe didn't think we could, you know? And often that can be in the form of choosing something that makes you a little uncomfortable, or meeting somebody along the path that sort of changes your trajectory in some shape, way, or form. And so, interesting to just piggyback what you would say is that for me, I have Sagittarius moon and it's in the sixth house. So for me, a lot of that has been a interesting experience on my routine and my health and wellness and how I can be of service in these from my experiences. And so it feels like I have had so many beautiful moments that have kind of, nudged me in different directions, that have helped me understand something much deeper. So I'll give you an instance. I think before I became into the astrology world, I was um, in holistic nutrition, and even before that, I wasn't really living a holistic life, right? I was in my young 20s, and so I had sort of reached a point where the universe was like, okay, she's ready. And I always meet perfect strangers on my path that have these really profound conversations. And there was just a woman I remember, and she was going through some health issues and doing the most to help regulate her body, through different diets, all these different things. And I was not on that journey yet. And so we had a meet cute moment. Um, and as a result of that, she was like, just asking me questions to look deeper within myself, like, um, why are you doing this, or why are you doing that? Like, I'm a stranger, you could take it or leave it, kind of thing, right? And was like, here's this book, just check it out. So as a result of that conversation, a lot of my mind and sort of learning and educating myself kind of made me feel like, okay, I feel like I want to learn more about this, and that's also part of the signature of this season is, what do you want to learn more about? And like, how can you sort of take steps towards that or explore that in a different way that maybe wasn't as obvious to you at first, and then becomes as you're walking down the street, or you're doing something out of the ordinary, and something, you know kismet kind of happens to help you kind of on your path. So, with that being said, I would love to hear, do you have any of those moments where in your life that you feel like you've met like a great teacher, or someone in a point in your life where it just asks you to grow outside your pot, that just kind of really was a huge turning point for you?
I love that. I love that you're sharing that. And I love that framing. Absolutely. I think that's littered throughout my entire life is that being available for the teachers and the messengers to show up in whatever unexpected form that they do. I'm thinking if there's a pivotal moment, there's been many for sure where, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I have a background with essential oils. I am an essential oil advocate and um, an educator, and through that experience, I met some of the most open, curious, brilliant minds. And I had a meeting with an astrologer, Nina Taylor, who has since become a great friend of mine, but she opened me up to the world of astrology in a way that was really profound and deep, and invited me to explore that through a lens that was relevant to the experience that I was having, in a way that really helped me refine my journey and my path towards getting to know myself better. So I since have had so much vocabulary and language around the ability to advocate for myself or understand parts of myself that I wouldn't have without that invitation from her. Similarly, there's this woman, Hannah Miller, who's online, and she is an Eastern medicine doctor. And she came through in a way serendipitously as well during a time in my life when I was available to learn more about that approach of medicine. And she taught me about the cyclical nature of things and the moon phases and the internal seasons, like your menstrual cycle and follicular and ovulation and luteal. And that language has been formative knowing that about myself, that the cycles that I move through in this intimate way has really formed the woman that you see before you today. And that also came from a chance encounter or a spontaneous arrival of a stranger into my life that, the spiritual path allowed me to be open and ready and available for, even though it was coming through in a package that I hadn't explored or opened before. It was just that, the readiness and the availability allowed those things to be encountered and to come forward. Those are a couple of ones that come through. Mm-hmm.
I love that. As you said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And this is that very much that journey. And it seems like each time something or someone came through, they expanded your perspective or your knowledge in some way that you were able to integrate into your life and give you a little bit more of a deeper awareness within yourself, which is essentially what I love astrology for in its entirety, which is that it's just the map that you get to choose how to operate the cards that you want to deal with. It's the free will within that. Um, I think I've said this to you, but I'll say it on here is that I have had done twins charts and I have met people with the same birthday, similar time, and we are living completely different lives.
Wow.
And so that is your permission slip to be the creator of that. But what I love about sessions with clients is when we sit down and we talk about um, your energy within your chart, we also talk about the ways in which you can interact with it. I feel like the biggest spiritual lesson I've learned this year has been, and actually not just this year, but over the years, I would say, is that we are the drivers of our seat and that divine time is the last possible moment something can come in. So you want to claim your timeline and you want to maybe understand the overview of the transits so that you can understand how to work with the opportunities, the openings, the lessons. Because I don't know if anyone has come full to this where you're like, Jesus, take the wheel, or, surrender, I'm surrendering, which is important in certain moments. Absolutely. But what I have learned through my guides and that they've been in my ear about is that we want you to sort of claim your timeline and use astrology to help you move forward, which is how I like to help clients with it, rather than today's a big day in the sky. And then you wait and you're like, but nothing happened, right? This is the opportunities may knock, but you have to get up and open the door, or you get an idea that day and then you put pen to paper and you actually, work with it in some capacity. So this has been something that I feel has been such a great sort of lesson in a deeper way for me. And I think for some people I've also kind of met along this year is that your chart is such a unique snowflake, but you get to choose the way you want to interact and live with it and create with it and, see how life is happening for you in a lot of ways. And that's what I love about it is it's not here to put you in a box. It's here to help you go deeper within yourself and allow yourself that space and that awareness to quiet the noise and to really just like see what resonates, you know? So,
And
yeah.
I love that. And I think, and I love that. I do love that. And I do feel that a aspect of claiming your timeline. And I do love that language and terminology. I think it points us in a direction as to where each of us can go when we hear that, when we're invited to do that. And I believe it's simpler than we think. I think if you show up and you wake up with that intention, right? Setting intention really is the catalyst, it's the framework towards claiming that timeline. So it's not that you're making things happen from this monkey mind of conceptual understanding from this linear perspective of like the conditioning of what we believe to be possible, because so much more is possible beyond that. It's this allowance to stay available to that guidance that once you wake up and set that intention, you start your day with that willingness to be guided along there. That is the actions you're taking along the way. So it's this really devotional practice of coming home to yourself in a way that you trust the unfolding, which is the claiming of that timeline. And I want to make that discernment because for me, who I self-proclaimed overthinker, I can see some of your audience or our listeners thinking like, this now means I have to orchestrate or manufacture or control something, when it's actually the opposite. It's the ability to show up with intention, and the unfolding is your invitation forward. Just one moment at a time. That presence and that availability is what allows us to claim that timeline.
Beautiful distinction. And I'm very happy that you clarified that because, yes, I absolutely mean it more from a place of in resonance. Like this feels deeply in resonance with my soul, in my body, in my mind, in my soul. And therefore, I am going to, um, move towards it. That's really what I'm saying when I say claim the timeline, not to, you know, oversee everything, right? It's more about this really feels in resonance with me and feels like, yeah, this is it. This is, so I'm going to take the steps to move towards it rather than just being like sitting on the couch and being like, when it comes, right? That's what I mean by when we say divine time, that when we say in divine time, it can mean like the last actual possible point for it to come. When in reality, if we feel that and we're in resonance with it, we can take the intention or take a few steps towards it. And that creates the opportunity through the exploration. A lot of the times I find, and it's something that I've learned through the way, is that half the time we don't take the chances because we feel we need to be ready. And so as a result, we build confidence through steps. And that's what this is all about. This season's about exploring that. We can't get success until we fail. So we have to go through the journey of everything. And so um, that's where we get wisdom from. The most successful people have gone through the ups and downs and the tribulations. And I can say, as an entrepreneur, I have learned a lot about myself through this process, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? And so it's a really big part of, to your point at the earlier part of the conversation, where you said the best teachers or the people that you resonate with are the ones that are speaking from their own truth, from their own lived experience, which is basically Sagittarius in that bottle, message in a bottle, like speaking from a lived experience, rather than just a book.
Yeah, I love that.
Love that too. So a couple of dates is just to keep an eye out because we're obviously in this season of exploration and looking at things from a different perspective, which I invite you guys to do and to follow your curiosity. Possibly travel could come up during this time as well. And, our actions on November 24th, when Mars enters Sagittarius, will also sort of bring that energy into it, where we'll be sort of more seeking out things in that where we want to learn or where we want to grow. Or, I feel like at that time is usually when we're going to want to be out with people a little bit more and interacting in that way. And Mercury retrograde will shift, which we are currently in at this time. So it's a good time for us to reflect on our experiences actually at this time. This is why this is so timely for us to really understand the connections of, our teaching moments as well as our student moments in life, and figuring out what our truth is, our inner compass in a big way, which can only be answered from you yourself and what you know and what you have gone through. But in the same vein, can we also lean a little bit more into our beliefs? Are they expansive or are they contractive? What's keeping us a little bit more limited than we would like it to be? Are we expressing ourselves from a place that's inviting, or is it dogmatic? These are sort of the terms and things we want to look at during this season, um, because Sagittarius has a very good ability to be honest, right?
Mhm.
So the Taylor Swift song, so casually cruel in the name of being honest, that can be very Sagittarius. So it's an important thing to understand that we don't know what we don't know.
Mhm.
And sometimes we say, oh, I know. But why not invite a little bit more of a openness in this time frame. And um, that can allow us to move beyond what we thought we knew. Because I don't know about you, Alia, but I have experienced where times where I have felt like, oh, I know this to be true, only to like maybe go through some things and be like, I look at that completely differently now, right? Like it's not this, it's like day and night. Have you experienced that? Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
I continue to, and I really don't trust anything that the mind offers up. I often, um, yeah, I really think the relationship with our mind is such that it is a beautiful master and it's not meant to lead us. So I find that it's really important to have these practices and these rituals and these deeper understanding so that the guidance system goes beyond just the conceptual mind noise, the mind weather of things, because we can write the story from a limited perspective, or we can think that we know all there is to know about something without fully knowing that it's just something we haven't experienced yet. Or we might, I mean, this happened to my sister and I often when we were young moms and we hadn't been through a certain phase with our children yet. There would be this like indignation of like, I would never let my toddler do that. Well, it's so humbling once your baby, who has just been sleeping 8 hours, is a toddler. And then you recognize I didn't have the lived experience to speak on that. I had no idea how I would show up as a parent in those ways. And that allows you to have more information and more integration into a more realistic version of how you're showing up for experience, that goes beyond the mind, beyond, conceptualizing what you think you will or won't do prior to the experience of it. And I do think Sagittarius is such a beautiful invitation, like inviter into like do the thing, experience the thing, speak from there. There's that adventure side of Sagittarius, that fire, that flame that's like walk the fire and allow that to be the invitation towards whatever remains after that kind of you walk through the fire is what is the refining process, right? So it's that invitation. Sag is always like show up for the thing, and through that experience then you can speak on it. And I do believe that to be very, very true and very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the lived humbled experiences as
Mhm.
much as I enjoy the ones that feel expansive in the way that you're like, oh, that feels really great. The ones that I feel the help you grow the most, or the teachers that I feel also that have come through on different periods of my life, have been often the ones that have um, maybe triggered something, within me, and something that I needed to look at deeper or
Mhm.
understand in a different way. And so I have also really welcomed those moments because I look at every single person as a teacher, and there's always a reason. I'm like, my answer or my question always is to be curious about why they're in front of me, in this moment in time. Why are we in alignment in this moment of time? And what can I learn? What's the lesson? What's the takeaway? Yeah. So I know you specialize in helping people get unstuck in real time. Is that
Mhm.
right, fair for me to say?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. So when someone feels maybe stuck, what's the process of coming back into alignment? Would you sort of help them with in terms of like, say, if they're feeling lost or stuck?
Mhm. Well, first of all, I'm really resource plentiful. So I usually will intuit a direction that we can move towards, whether that is through IFS and the internal family system, inner child work, astrology, whatever resonates. There are brilliant resources that we can attune ourselves to that give us more perspective outside of our limited beliefs and conditioning. And those are always the ways that are going to help open us up towards what's possible for ourselves rather than feeling stuck in it. So for me, I'm always pointing people back to the low hanging fruit, like what's available in your life right now that's a doorway into what's possible for yourself.
Mhm.
And let's reach for that, whether that is to somatically come back to the body through tapping or through breathing techniques, through essential oils. There's an arsenal of techniques and resources that we can somatically come back into the body and begin to work with the nervous system. Nervous system regulation is a big part of it too. And a lot of the work that I've been doing personally, which has been infused in my work, is around this notion that there are different aspects of ourselves. So I've been doing a lot of work personally and with clients around recognizing and turning towards the parts of ourselves that are showing up in any given moment. So the work is always through what's coming, not in avoidance of it. And I would say that that's at the foundation of all of the resources that we're reaching for and all of the tools. It's essentially allowing us to meet that aspect and to hold, to nurture, to show compassion so that it's integrated or we move through it, right? So it's never a practice of avoidance or distraction or numbing. It's always coming back into the felt sense experience that we're having. And through that, we awaken what's possible, right? So that language, I think, is really important because a lot of people don't even recognize that there are various aspects of ourselves that are coming online and why they're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So emotions are not looking to be solved. They just want to be met. They just want to be acknowledged, right? It's not, there's no solution that we have to come to. It's just that ability to meet that part of ourselves that maybe before we labeled as inconvenient or um, disappointing or limiting. Instead, if we can turn towards it and ask, like, okay, I see you, I acknowledge you. What is it that you have to say? Really begins this internal dialogue that allows that part to fully be seen and explored and held. And that gives way to the peace that you're looking for, the clarity, the felt sense of guidance and support, right? But it's always through the meeting and turning towards whatever aspect's showing up with curiosity, asking the questions, what are you here to teach me? And in true listening, that will dissolve into and make way for whatever's trying to come forward.
And what's so interesting to hear that is from at least my lens, a lot of the times when women come to me and they're at a crossroads or they're needing some clarity or some decisions, um, you know, back to sort of coming back home to them or their routines is often something that comes up, and that can be showcased in your fourth house, which is your known as your anchor of like how you best like regulate your emotions and how you best connect to like the feminine part of yourself, like how you come home to yourself would be indicated by the fourth house. So for you having Scorpio there, it's like you have to go deep. You need to go private. You need to kind of be off the grid a little bit, and you need some like, time to sort of go through the dark to come out the other side. Um, for me, Virgo's in the fourth house, so I will need to spend some time cleaning and organizing my space and really having it feel like it's in its everything is organized. I have the right food in my fridge to keep me feeling anchored and healthy, to keep me back into my body. So just like things like that are really small, that I feel is where like a good place to start is, as well as the 12th house indicates to us like a lot of our subconscious fears and beliefs sometimes, and also our way to connect into divinity, into spirituality, into something beyond ourself. And I know that you have your moon there a lot, and that's like the signature of healing, or being a healer in this lifetime through nurturance, right? Which is so beautiful. Um, and almost is that like mothering energy that you have to maybe do for yourself in order to like be able to kind of hold space in that way, that unconditional kind of love. And so yeah, those are just something I wanted to just put in there because I love what you said, and I feel like sometimes it's the places I love to just kind of like start to look at with people so that we can kind of look at the full picture and look at the ways in which basically can support yourself, through anything. And sometimes, life can be a windy road and the detours can be really hard, but that's actually sometimes the detours can be the best, and we don't know um, where they lead us until we go through it, and then we can see it from the bigger picture after the fact. So that's also part of this energy, where it's like allowing yourself to be on the journey and realize that when you are maybe not in it, but when you're through it, you'll be able to look back and be like, oh, that makes sense. And that's actually sometimes what my favorite thing to do is when I look at transits through the past with people and they're like, this happened on this day. It's actually, sometimes prefer doing astrology through the lens of lived experience. So we go back to that day and we can talk about it from a different vantage point, and people have this like, oh my God, light bulb moment, and then just like be like, okay, wow.
And in essence of Sagittarius, I feel like, Sagittarius, if you look at the birthing experience, is sort of holding that veil of the delivery of the baby. But through that labor, there's the contractions, which is the surges, which is the ache of discomfort that is actually doing the labor of bringing the baby closer to you. So the big picture is that we want to deliver this baby. So whether that baby is, a new project or a relationship or a health goal, we're always in that deliverance, right? And so Sag is holding that big picture of like, you're on this adventure, and everything along the way is that surge that's bringing that vision closer to you, which gives you a tolerance in a different way than when you feel like you're just in the surge for no reason. As soon as you have context and you're like, hey, this is actually propelling me towards giving birth to that vision, and in the literal sense, the baby, then it allows us to be not just tolerant of that experience, but actually in reverence or in appreciation, gratitude, because we understand that those aches are always moving us towards that delivery. And that's the Sagittarius of like that broader perspective of like all of the things you're moving through in your life that you're calling a challenge or you're calling an obstacle, or you're calling a setback, are the very things that are moving you towards that vision. And if you can hold that Sagittarius adventure around that, it makes the journey so much more fruitful. It becomes less even about the arrival and more so about just being along the way in gratitude and appreciation for what's showing up on the path, which is a different way of looking at it.
That was a really beautiful metaphor and a visual for the audience to really just sink their teeth into. And I felt just listening to you speak that actually took me through that birth canal. And as a result, sort of just understanding that journey and like that visual prompt. And I felt it in my body in a way that just really landed. So I if you're listening and that landed, that was a really good image for us to kind of look into or feel into.
I love that. And then to tie it back to what you had offered us with claiming your timeline from this vantage point within the birthing system. So we know that the timing of this is not necessarily in our hands in terms of like what the time that the baby delivers. But to your point, owning that timeline looks like breathing with the surges instead of holding the body in contraction. It looks like moving the body when that feels right, like listening to the selves and take yourself and taking those actions that are in service of that bigger picture. So it's not just idly sitting back and allowing birth to happen. There are actually active ways in which you are owning that timeline, as you had said, like nurturing yourself when you need nurturance, feeding yourself when you need food, hydrating yourself, moving the body, resting the body, deep breaths, all of those things is you owning that timeline. So you're an active participant. It's not like life's just happening to you. You are life. You are the unfolding of this experience. Your presence is all that is being asked of you, is your conscious awareness to the unfolding of the process is really the success. That is the success of it. Can you be present for your life as it's unfolding? Can you meet every contraction and every surge as a blessing that's bringing birth closer to you, that is delivering this thing that you're calling in with intention?
That is absolutely the secret sauce in and also it being able to sit, I feel like, with the discomfort and realizing that it is leading you to something that you are may or may not really realize at the moment, and it's getting you closer to the vision, to to the other side of something. I love that, this too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. There's no permanency in anything, and change is inevitable. So with even like the highs of highs, this too shall pass, and lows of lows, this too shall pass.
Mhm.
And so that's what I also, what led me actually, I think, to the astrology initially was I used to sort of raffle with, feeling a lot of what was happening, but didn't have words or a deeper understanding as to the experience itself. So having a visual map to the feelings that I'm feeling or the experiences that I'm experiencing in my life gave me this sense of acceptance, accountability, and also it actually helped remove this inner feeling of anxiousness that I was like, what's happening? But I'm feeling all of this. It was like, okay, I can look at my chart, see the transit, understand, and then lean back and understand it even deeper within myself. So I was like, okay, what is this teaching me? All right, I'm moving through this cycle because different transits can help us transition into different things again when we interact with it, right? I always say astrology is happening whether we know it or not, right? But it's just like to have that as a tool can be such a great ally in life. I feel like our intuition is our secret weapon. And to your point, often I lean back and I'm like, okay, body, what do you have to say? Okay, intuition, what do you have to say? Okay, ego, what do you have to say? Okay, fear, what do you have to say? um, Often holding space for all the different parts of to really understand the distinction and the difference of the different voices that we have within us and who's kind of who's in charge here who's leading for today, and so
Exactly.
you know
Exactly. And recognizing that their intention is actually the same. They just have different approaches to it, right? Like that protector part that's like, you know, don't fuck with me, no nonsense, like zero bullshit, no tolerance, actually wants the same thing for you. They want you to have boundaries. They want you to have relationships that are infusing you with love. They want to ensure your safety and security. And so their method might be harsh and it might be direct, more so than maybe you're comfortable with. But you don't want to turn it offline because its intention is always the same. It wants you to move closer towards giving birth to that vision that you're holding for yourself. And when you know that, you befriend all aspects of yourself. There's no parts that need to be exiled or removed from the conversation. And if you bring those parts together, and then maybe you have the wise part within yourself, that protector part that comes forward and it's like very categorical, really rigid. And okay, we're not turning it offline. We want you to be part of the conversation. And then you have that wise part that comes forward that can see a little bit more and has that vantage point of recognizing that protectors acting from fear. And though we don't want to dismiss that aspect, we want to refine it. And we want that process to be a little bit more intentional than maybe the protector. It's very raw and real and showing up in that way. And then maybe there's the wound that comes forward, the inner child that's giving you an aspect of something that hasn't fully closed yet. And so there's tenderness there and there's vulnerability and there's softening there. We don't want to turn that offline. We want to lean in and let them know, I hear you. And this will be integrated into the conversation or the action or the unfolding. And so when we call all aspects of ourselves into community and we hold that fireside chat and we say like exactly what you were saying, like what do you have to say, protector? What do you have to say, wisdom? What do you have to say, inner child? What's online today? Then everybody feels heard. And it's not until we reject or oppose or ignore aspects of ourselves that get louder and louder and louder until we turn them online, turn towards them and say, okay, I hear you and I've got this.
Mhm.
I'm taking this into consideration and it will be part of the way we move forward. We will ensure we have tighter boundaries or that we communicate more clarity because I hear that. And we'll do that with kindness and compassion because I hear that. And we'll be gentle and we'll be soft because I hear that. So it's the integration process. It's actually quite enjoyable. You actually carve out time to hear what your inner counsel has to say. So you're not living in avoidance and hustling through or avoiding or working past these things. You actually look forward to sitting in council and being like, because I know you're all in favor of my highest good, I want to hear from you. And I have the ability and capability to integrate all parts of myself and move forward in a way that feels integrated and balanced. And it becomes really a fruitful and enjoyable journey in doing so.
So beautiful. When you were saying this, I was like, there's a planet for that. There's a planet for that. So it was like interesting because the council to me is all the different planetaries that are energies that they possess, that we're all within us, right? Because essentially our chart is our personality of all these things. This, the the stern one who needs discipline, who needs, some lessons, like that's Saturn, right? And, expansion, growth, teaching, that's Jupiter. So it's just like, okay, we're in our fields or we want to connect to something higher. There's Neptune over there. Um, and so it's interesting because I had a meditation and my guides sort of came through and they were talking to me about like the planets are almost like my guides in a way. And so, each of them represent a different thing to help you navigate, but they're all part of you in a way. So it's just like it's in your inner circle, it's part of that, and then on the outer frame as well. So I love that you said that because that's exactly the visual I got when you were speaking. And then I want to just sort of add to this is that even though we are speaking to um, the sun, the moon, the rising, how we open up the podcast, every sign is within us. So that's the wheel. We just express it in different areas of life. So often not people might have this aversion to a sign. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting because that's a part of you. So let's go a little deeper to that section of your chart because there's something there for you with regards to that because there are like we're all detectives in this season right now and going deeper and exploring things because Sagittarius is the sun and it's a life force above us. It's radiating this energy into the collective. So we're all getting to experience together like what that season is in a certain area of our life that's being illuminated, that's asking for our time and our focus and our energy. And then we move into the next one and the next one. So this is what I mean is that we're not just one dimensional. And so, there's going to be these times where I focus on relationships through like play and fun, and that's where my Libra is and what I'm creating. But I know for Leah, it's through the way you communicate. It's very diplomatic, so you're expressing Libra in a different way, but it's still part of you. And I feel like that's just so interesting, and it's something I really want people to just consider because can be very divisive, right? To divide us, but it's so interesting to look at it again, like, oh, I have all of these traits within me. I just display them in different areas of my life. Yeah, food for thought.
I love that. It's truth, capital T. And if we have a aversion to something, it's because it's unexplored within ourselves. And so that person actually becomes the blessing because they're mirroring to you something within yourself that you have currently not explored or have rejected. Because otherwise, there would be neutrality. You can observe someone and recognize what they're displaying or what's exuding from them with this element of neutrality. But as long as there's like friction or whether that's admiration or an aversion, it's mirroring back to you what exists within yourself. So either whether that's admiration or aversion, it's a blessing because that person is reflecting to you an area that you can explore within yourself. So that person you admire, it's to reflect back and say, okay, where is that sign within myself? Where is that adventure, that Sagittarius fire? It's that reflection is of yourself. It's an invitation to come forward in that. Or if you're judging someone for being so forthcoming and so, able to hold the space in a way that there's an element for you to explore in which you haven't explored that aspect within yourself. So it is always this invitation to come home to yourself. And in doing that, really, there's rejection of no one, really. You come to a point where you're just like, you are just on your journey, you're walking your wheel as I'm walking mine, and you're coming into my orbit because there's something for me to learn from you and me from you, and vice versa. And you wish everyone well with love, genuinely. Like this is somatic, it's not cerebral, you're not thinking it. And the embodiment is this feeling of like blessings to you on your journey. And thank you for the reflection you brought today. And on you go. It takes away the charge of like this person against me or this person being wrong and I'm right, that righteousness that we can have when we don't recognize those planets or those representations within ourselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oof. All right. Some big things that we just went into that I feel just naturally took shape. And I usually tend to prepare more. And I felt this time I wanted to come in here open-minded, open-hearted, and just to see how we would, what would come through. And wow, I think I've gotten a lot from this. I hope that the viewers have. And I just want to say thank you so much, Alia, for being here. And for the listeners for tuning in. And I hope this conversation inspires you to take, a small step outside your comfort zone this week and to explore new things, to take a step back and, try to look at it from a bird's eye view. But yeah, from me to you, until next time, keep listening, keep exploring, and try stepping outside your soul zone.
So, to help you make the most of your month, I've created a personal PDF with key dates, the season you are in, where your connections can shine, and where aligned action matters the most. You can find that in the show notes.